being part of today's session. My name is Camila. I am the co-founder of Sativa Media. Sativa Media is one of the few platforms in India that focuses on creating awareness around sustainability, the SDGs, and the cannabis industry in India. Last year at Startup September, we had a few sessions about the hemp industry in India and how hemp can pave the way to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This year, we're happy to continue our partnership with Headstart and bring you a series of 8 online sessions that target different aspects of the sustainability world. Along with these sessions, we're also hosting a women-focused offline event supported by Hemp Street and Hemp Horizon called Women First, which will be on the 24th of September in Bangalore. Here we'll be launching a report on the importance of championing women in order to achieve the SDGs. The event will also have a panel discussion among female leaders on how they and their ventures are impacting women in 5 key areas. Today, in our 4th online session, emulating banana peel, we have 3 innovators, Prianka, Tanush, and Vivek, who will share their own particular approach to sustainable packaging. With this, I'd like to introduce Bagdasi. Thank you so much for moderating the session. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Camila, for such a nice introduction and starting the session over. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session today with us. So I am Bagdasi Patel from Headstart Network Organization. I am a program manager at a Headstart. So Headstart Network is India's largest volunteer-driven grassroots level organization, supporting entrepreneurship and startups with a presence in 25 plus cities and conducts 200 plus meetups in a year across India by impacting over 20k lives. And in a very sooner time, in October, we are coming with the HSX, and currently we are celebrating Startup September, and this sustainable packaging, this sustainable session series is a part of Startup September festival itself. I would like to welcome the speakers for today's panel, Miss Priyanka Jhaveri from the Mend Packaging. She is a co-founder at the Mend Packaging. I would like to welcome Priyanka on the panel, and please address a few words about the.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. We're so excited to be here. I'm Prianka Jhaveri, and I'm the co-founder of the Mend Packaging. Our company focuses on providing sustainable alternatives to packaging. So we pioneered in using international as well as existing domestic technologies to create packaging that was made from recycled, recyclable, biodegradable, reusable, and compostable materials, while still maintaining the durability and the aesthetic of traditional packaging. So we work on end-to-end packaging solutions, right from your ideation, execution, manufacturing, design, all the way up to helping companies dispose of their packaging correctly.
Okay. Thank you, Priyanka. Now I would like to welcome Vivek Nattamai on the panel, who is a co-founder and CTO at United Tesla Hemp Company. Vivek, please come forward and elaborate us.
Hello, and I would like to thank you all for this opportunity. And I'm Vivek Nattamai Sankaran, co-founder of United Tesla Hemp Company. We are into cannabis-based medicines, nutraceuticals, and hemp paper-based packaging solutions. So I got into hemp industry by learning paper making so that I can make paper from hemp fiber. And so eventually, after making hemp paper, I realized that we need packaging material from hemp paper, not just writing notebooks, diaries. So I started exploring this more from 2018. I started learning paper making 2016. From 2018, I started exploring the packaging aspect of it. It is sustainable packaging, and we are doing it from the textile industry waste, hemp fiber waste. So the raw material we use for paper making is not direct fiber, directly sourced from the market or directly sourced from anywhere. It's it's a byproduct from the textile industry. So what we are using is already a waste in one industry. That's how we got into this, and we are still working on R&D before launching into kind of packaging solutions into market. So we are yet into R&D phase. Though we have made few envelopes here and there and cigarette boxes, but I think our main focus still is on R&D.
Okay, thank you, Vivek. I would like to welcome our third panel of the day, Tanush Prem, who is the founder and CEO at Mushloop. Uh, Tanush, please come forward and please enlighten us about your startup.
Yeah. So thanks for having me, and thanks Headstart for having me as a panel. So I am Tanush. So I am the founder and CEO of Mushloop. So we are into a sustainable packaging startup that replaces styrofoam and single-use plastics from mushroom and agricultural waste. So we are a green tech startup. We develop a various type of spawns and mix it with the agricultural waste of different types of plants such as rice, wheat, which is the agricultural waste. So and mold them into various shapes to get the perfect packaging materials, which replaces different types of products. So that is what we are into totally.
Thank you so much, Tanush. Now I would like to start the panel with our questions. So here is the first question for all of you. How soon do you believe sustainable packaging will have an impact on our daily lives? Or when do you believe that sustainable products will be accessible to those who cannot afford them at the present time? We'll start with Priyanka.
So I think, we're already starting to see this change in consumer behavior, in our everyday lives. Like we have apparel brands promising ethically sourced and traceable fabrics. We have cosmetic companies promoting clean and earth-friendly, animal cruelty-free products. We have, consumer electronic brands that are offering buybacks to, recycle old products or refurbish old products. And I think all of consumers are applying more and more pressure on companies to sort of push that needle and move towards a more sustainable tomorrow. So I was actually reading this study by Harvard Business School where about 70% of consumers actually believe that it's somewhat important or very important for brands to make the world a better place. So because consumers are putting that pressure, I think we're also seeing that from the business side of things.
Okay, Vivek.
Yeah, I resonate with what Priyanka just said, that the consumers are eager. They have changed. It's just from my end, we have not been able to provide the final end solution yet in terms of providing a better packaging solution to the consumer. The case was different a few years back, a couple of years back, if I would say that. The consumer were not so aware or not so concerned about sustainability in terms of packaging. But now the thing is changing. So I'm glad that there are people like Tanush Prem and Priyanka Jhaveri already are providing solutions to it. And so I think the time is not very far. It's closer. The people, the idea the consumers had before is different from what they have now, and in future it's just going to grow faster than ever. So I think we are just reaching there sooner than ever.
True. Tanush?
Yeah, so like what both of the panelists said is totally true. And the main thing which I see is the thing about the brand awareness, not the brand awareness, it's like the thing about the PR relating to the sustainable and all those stuff. So that's what make the consumers learn more about what is sustainability, and that what's make them to push towards different kinds of startups or different kinds of manufacturers who make changes to certain kinds of packaging things which they are doing already.
If I can just add to what we already said, I think another huge driver has also been government intervention. A lot of states are seeing bans on single-use plastics and what materials are acceptable when you're sending out couriers, for example. So I think that's also pushed companies to make that switch even faster than they already would have.
Yes, that's true. Okay, thank you so much for this, and we will move forward for the next question. What significant changes have you noticed in the sustainable practices so far? What sustainable measures does the packaging economy have developed and implemented?
So I think, like I said before, like in terms of what brands are already doing outside the packaging industry, we are seeing that shift in attitude and practices. And I think within packaging is ubiquitous, right? It's used across every industry in the world. Every product comes with some sort of packaging, and I think brands are moving their focus to carry out these sustainable practices when it comes to packaging in a variety of manners. So so for one, brands are trying to use 100% recyclable or reusable packaging or refillable packaging. When it comes to primary packaging, brands are also trying to use uh, boxes or paper that are made from a high percentage of recycled content. Some brands are also just eliminating packaging completely. We see so many innovative packaging ideas all across the world, from product to product, and going plastic free. And I think one of the main things also, and I had noticed this when we had just started out our company, whenever someone got a PR package, that unboxing experience was a huge thing back then. And to show impact and to really promote your product, so you'd have like these massive PR packages with just one tiny product in the center, and a lot of negative space. So I think, optimally using your resources as well as your raw materials, and really making use of the space that you're sending to your customers, both from an environmental perspective. It also helps reduce your raw materials, it also helps reduce your logistic costs, it also helps reduce your um, product costs. So I think, a bunch of little factors and a bunch of small steps towards these packaging changes have really been standing out when I've been seeing packaging recently.
Okay, Tanush.
Yeah, so what Priyanka said is like totally true. So what happens is like these kind of things which the measures taken by the government, as well as that's what makes it a kind of different kinds of brands to make with different kinds of innovative products such as packaging. So what they do, the main brands, take for example Apple. So what they promote their product as sustainable, and they promote their packaging as sustainable also. So this is what makes a huge turn with certain kinds of dimensions, where the industry standards as well as the packaging industry is being changed.
Yes, Vivek.
So yes, now that the brands have been, the USP for the brands were mostly based on the products. Now the USP is most like the packaging solution, sustainable packaging solution. So there is a huge shift in the brand. Like very lately, recently, I'm seeing that because people had, there are similar brands selling a lot of similar products, like different brands selling similar products. But then now their USP is more on sustainability, and it mostly coming from the packaging. So I think this is the most important change or metamorphosis that is happening at the moment, and I think this is going to be the major factor for sustainability in terms of packaging in the brands. This USP shifting from product to sustainable packaging, and that is where the scope emerges for brands like us, as in like Priyanka, myself, and Tanush, where the scope emerges from there, because the USP is not anymore product based, it's the packaging based. How you're going to deliver it? Consumer is buying your product, and what is he going to do with the packaging? Just going back to landfill, or it's going to be something more useful than landfill, based packaging as a product. So, in my opinion, I think that's the greatest fact that is going through right now.
Yeah, cool. So, but allied with this, I have one more question in regarding. that we had products, we have lots of marking for the such products like MRP markings, ISI markings, to identify the validation of the product, right? So say similar way for the sustainable packaging products, or when a layman public people are going to buy such a sustainable products. So is there any markings or available or for to identify that, yeah, it's actual sustainable packaging product or something?
So I think that that also depends from material to material, is what I've noticed. So for bioplastics, every bioplastic bag has an identification. There's a government mandated CPCB code that the manufacturer has to print on the bag. And that's sort of like that indication or mark that that bag is made from a bioplastic and not from plastic. There's certain papers that are made from FSC. Paper, FSC recycled paper. So there are certain markings, but there's not one, I think, like government body in India that has said that this particular product or packaging is sustainable. So there's not one for that. I think it differs from material to material. But one of the things that I do if I'm getting a box, the best way to check if it's made from recycled materials is if you tear the paper, the inside won't be, if it's white, it's virgin paper, and if it's a grayish or a brown, then it's recycled paper. So I think, if someone just wants to test out at home, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's great. Vivek?
I think this is one of the most important questions that you have asked, because we as a hemp paper manufacturer haven't been able to figure out how to tell, how to show, how to put it out there. This is sustainable packaging material. Yeah, I know that because I make the paper from industrial waste of textile industry, but not my consumers nor others. So I've been really finding it hard and difficult to get this point across. The product should speak for itself. Like I know, like how Priyanka mentioned that there is a recyclable logo, or how she has figured out a way for a consumer that tear the paper and see. But unfortunately for us, for our packaging, we haven't been able to get one, and we are still working on that aspect.
Okay. Tanush, your thoughts on
Yeah,
this?
so what Priyanka and Vivek said is totally true. So there's no governmental kind of things which can classify these kind of products as sustainable. So it depends upon the product they use and depends upon what kind of material it's being used. So what the startups or what the other industries they can do is like they can check with certain kinds of certifications and print those numbers, because as of now there's no government kind of a certified thing to display these kind of products is being sustainable or not. So what we can either do is like take the certifications number, print it on your product, and just like sell it off. So that can make it easy.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
Yes,
like Vivek was saying, this is a problem we faced early on as well, because there are clients who come and say, how are you proving that this is sustainable? So one of the first few things we started doing was getting construction certificates. So all paper has a construction certificate of what goes into it and how much is recycled content. So and it differs from mill to mill and what paper you're using. But I think initially that was helpful for us to show our clients based on the product we were making them.
Yeah, but that's good on the B2B side. But when we look at the consumer part, it would be good if government take initiative in this. That would be good for us, right? Cool. So the next question from my end is, what is your company's serviceable market within the sustainable packaging industry? To all of you, we'll start with Priyanka.
So I think, like I said, packaging is used across all industries, and I think there is a growing demand, like I said, on the consumer side, business side, especially with e-commerce booming now. The need for packaging has increased even more. Because people are ordering online more than they were initially. So I think wherever there is packaging, people do have that ability to make that switch. And I think sorry, I've just I lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me. But yeah, I think definitely in terms of packaging, there is a lot of scope across all industries.
Okay, Tanush, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so what happens is like my kind of startup. So we at Mushloop, so we are mainly focusing on the styrofoam because styrofoam is being widely used in certain kinds of packaging, like take electronics, cosmetics, then e-commerce. E-commerce is a huge place where styrofoam is being used just once, and they just like throw it out, and it just like goes to the landfill. So we are just wanting to replace the styrofoam because there's no as of recycling kind of a material for styrofoam as of yet. So there are certain kinds of process, but what happens is like the process takes a lot of amount than creating a new product itself. So that is what the recycling market of styrofoam is being. So yeah, as Priyanka said, so packaging comes with a lot of different kinds of areas and different kinds of sectors. It depends upon what kind of product or what kind of material they want to use, so they can go ahead with those kind of sectors.
Makes sense. Vivek?
I think we are very limited in the hemp industry. Hemp industry in India is just emerging industry, and so our scope or serviceable market area is just limited to the say 40 to 45 brands that are servicing in the hemp industry. And unfortunately, our product is not very economically viable at the moment. And there is a reason for that. I can maybe add the reason later at a different section of this session. But yes, so our serviceable market is very limited to just hemp-based companies. And that is also limited with, we have a constraint, economic constraint. People have other better alternative options than going for a hemp-based packaging solution. So the economically viable part is what being a restricting factor for us in the serviceable market area.
So just going off of what Vivek said, in terms of limitations, we notice that if any packaging is made from recycled or waste materials, there are limitations in terms of what it can come in contact with. So, for example, anything that goes in your body or on your body cannot come directly in contact with recycled packaging, unless because it's a waste material. So you need some sort of a certification. It has to go through FSSAI, FDA, depending on what the product is. So I think that is definitely a limitation in terms of recycled packaging. But other than that, sustainable packaging is so broad that there's so many other alternatives out there as well for these industries.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So now I would like to address this question particular to you, Priyanka. How does the supply chain for sustainable packaging function in the industry? As you are mentioning, it's a really wide, right? So first of all, this, and along with this, how is the manned packaging adding value to this market?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest challenges with sustainable packaging has been one, lack of awareness, and two, inaccessibility to raw materials. So a lot of the times, like I remember when we just started out, I'd go and ask and say, oh, do you have something that's made from recycled paper? And you'd have vendors saying it's made from paper, so it has to be eco-friendly, which is not true, because a lot of the times paper comes with a thin layer of plastic on it, because that's what helps your print come out more vibrantly, your colors come out more vibrantly. So there's a huge difference between recycled paper, recyclable paper, and regular paper. So I think that awareness was not there initially in the market. And when I finally did find recycled paper, the prices were extremely high. And the reason for this is, and it's actually, India as a country, we have, over 1 billion people. We generate so much garbage as a country, but we are still one of the largest net importers of waste. So we import garbage from, South America, East Europe, and we bring it all to India and then recycle that. And that's why we're paying so much duty on that garbage that we're importing. And the reason for that is that we don't segregate at the source. So even though, I may be producing, say in my household, like just as an example, say 1 kg of garbage in a month, because I'm not segregating that, you're unable to recycle it. If people are not segregating it in categories, or there's no proper waste management system or waste collection process, it cannot be recycled. So one of the first things we did is that we started working, and where I think we added value to the supply chain is we started working closely with waste management partners, local waste management partners. We started with smaller communities where we'd work with them. They'd collect their waste, segregate the waste for them, educate them on waste segregation, and then the segregated waste, we'd work with local paper mills in India and have them process that local waste into recycled paper. So this helped us, avoid all that duty costs and really bring down the cost of recycled packaging, so we could be competitive with market rates. Because otherwise, for to expect someone to pay that much of a premium just to switch to sustainable packaging is going to de-incentivize them. So you're not going to have the brand switch over, and you're not going to be able to convince them that yeah, sure, it's good for the environment, but at the end of the day, your unit economics for any brand plays a huge role. So I think that definitely helped a lot.
That's true. So I'll come to the Tanush for this question. Tanush, you have a product packaging material called Mushloops, right? And that was inspired by mushroom notions. Could you explain
Yes.
the technology behind your product and like how it functions for sustainable packaging?
Yeah. So coming with Mushloop, so this idea came from for example, so I ordered a packaging from Amazon. So what happens is I got a styrofoam, and what happened? It just broke. So I was thinking, so I can't use it again. So I just throw it in the dustbin. So as Priyanka and Vivek said before, so I was thinking, where does it go and ends? And then I was searching about what are the effects of styrofoam being used, and is it being recycled and all those stuff. And it takes nearly 500 years just to degrade. So that is when I was thinking, so why there's no any other material which replaces styrofoam, and which is a kind of a material which acts as a styrofoam also with a sustainable goal. So that's when I started this kind of a project. So it is a kind of a project which I started. So I started researching with Indian Institute of Science, and I came up with a solution by mixing certain kinds of compounds and mushroom as well as the agricultural waste. So we are solving two kinds of problems over here. One is the styrofoam, which is a plastic based material, and the other thing is the agricultural waste. So what happens is you must have heard, so people nearby the Delhi area or the anywhere in India, so they just burn crops after the cultivation because they don't have enough money or enough labor to clear it. So I was combining these kind of two problems and making a solution. So that's when Mushloop was born. So when comparing to the styrofoam, my material just comes around with a certain kinds of testing which I have done. So it is fire extinguishable, so it doesn't catches fire, to be precise. And it is when compared to styrofoam, my kind of product is stress free. So it is a sound absorbing material also. When comparing to different kinds of materials of styrofoam, so when you place certain kinds of heat, so it starts to catch fire. So because of this, the packaging industry, or if at all there's a certain kinds of fire in the sector, the old packaging or the warehouse just catches fire. So and when comparing to a larger scale, you must have heard, so these kind of things make a bigger problem to the manufacturing sector as well as to the thing. So the packaging which we are using just degrades in 30 to 45 days when you just dump it in your home compost. So these kind of, so there are some kind of sustainable packaging which decompose, but they require industry based of decomposers to decompose it. So my kind of packaging, just we can decompose in your pack. Yeah. So that's what.
Yeah, get that. Impressive. Okay, we're moving ahead with the Vivek for this upcoming question. So, Vivek, you are creating this packaging goods from hemp paper as a raw material, correct?
Yeah.
So, please enlighten us on how this material is created and how it compares to other paper material in terms of sustainability.
So, in terms of sustainability, the hemp paper we are making is it comes from waste. So, it has been produced from waste first of all. Because if it is not used for paper making by us, there are no practical application for that waste generated, and it's being generated in large quantity in terms of textile industry processing hemp fiber. So, and then the paper that when compared to other paper, it's the tensile strength is like 10 to 15 times higher than the regular paper. The tree-made paper has a good tensile strength, but the hemp paper has even much more higher tensile strength and higher tear strength, 2x tear strength than the regular paper.
So now the next I would like to move with that. What are the SDGs are you focusing as a company for the sustainable, like through your product in the sustainable domain?
Sure. So I think in terms of SDGs, obviously the first one would be responsible consumption and production. So even the way we consume our packaging and how we dispose it off correctly is something that we are promoting through our company, and something that we offer as a service as well, both to brands and consumers, to give that packaging another life. And then in terms of production of packaging, we really try to work with optimally, use our raw materials, use all our resources, use processes or manufacturing units that are low water, low energy. For example, if you just switch to recycled paper, the amount of water or energy or power used to make it is a lot less than using virgin paper. So that, and I think the other two, just in terms of how we are as a brand, is one, women empowerment. In a male dominated industry, we're still we have a female led. 5 out of 6 of our members are female, and I think while that could have been a hindrance early on, it's something that we've really excelled with, and accepted and grown from, and really found our place in the market. And I think the third would be partnerships, and this is something we really believe in as a brand, is collaborating over competing. I think that's really what helps you grow, not just as a company, but even within the industry. And really, all of us are working towards one goal, and collaborating something that we've seen both with our vendors as well as our clients, that it really helps you take that next step and really make a larger impact than you just doing it as a form of competition with someone else.
Understood. Your thoughts, Tanush?
Yeah, so we are totally focusing on affordable and clean energy, because what happens is like the energy from starting the manufacturing to the end product, so it comes from energy. So that is what you are mainly focusing on. So coming up with the second thing is sustainable cities and communities. So making a place more sustainable enough, and making a different kinds of packaging materials, which is like responsible consumption. So the other thing is responsible consumption. And we are mainly focusing on climate action also, because reducing of the burn of agricultural waste, even that also adds it. So these are the main factors we are focusing.
Okay, that's great. So we have like lots of conversation around sustainable packaging products and how market can adapt it and around this thing. So I have a question that sustainable products also have a cost to bear, right? When people will go and buy for buy for it. So my question is that in the past, the individuals are used to use the cloth bags or cotton bags for travel and commuting for the work and all. Since then, we have used the plastic bags, but now we are using cotton. Considering cotton bags as a sustainable product and the plastic bags as a non-sustainable, my concern is why this transition is being occurred, and what needs have evolved for us to return to such items instead of plastic. I would like you both to enlighten our audience towards this explanation.
I think, like we discussed initially, right? It's a mix of growing consumer awareness well as legislative bans on plastic, and people are becoming more conscious about their choices. Like today, any grocery store that you go to, for example, they'll ask you, "Do you want a bag?" And if you do, then you have to pay that amount for a bag, or you carry your own bag, and you take your groceries. People are switching to more reusable options. Plastic used to be so cheaply available in our country, so like it would cost almost nothing for people to have those plastic bags and then put their products in it. But because of these bans, people have had to account for that extra cost in their unit economics, just to provide a sustainable alternative, or a paper alternative, or a non-plastic alternative to their consumers. So I think that's definitely been a huge factor.
Okay, which has created the need of switching back to the sustainable. Okay. Your thoughts, Tanush?
Yeah, so mainly where this happened is the use and throw of plastics and products. So when you think about, like, take 1960s or during our grandmothers or grandpa's time, so what they do is, like, whenever they go out, they usually take a vessel, or else they usually take a bag to buy things. So, like, coming to this present, so what happens is, like, during our dads and moms time, so what happens is, like, they started more of the comfortable part. So whenever they go out, they don't need to carry things. So that's when the plastic evolution started. So, and as Priyanka mentioned, plastic industry is like so cheap, so they just like give it out as free. So as during the bans which made by the government, so what these kind of industries, as well as the groceries or different kinds of places, so they make a certain kinds of amendments where they are paying those kind of prices for getting the bag. So that's why they just want us to move to the older path of where we are coming from. So this is where my kind of thinking is relating what kind of question you have.
Yeah, so based on this insight from you guys, that what are the actual needs which has shifted back us to the sustainable products. I have one more question for the consumer end. Like, what do you project? I mean, like, when do you anticipate that the neighborhood kirana will purchase your packaging items, or else do you believe that only the Zomatos or Amazons of the world will be able to afford your sustainable products within next several years?
I actually had this conversation with I had gone to buy fruits, and I was having this conversation. I said, why are you still using plastic bags? You can get paper. But switching from plastic to any other material, whether it's paper, it's just increasing cost so much that for a Kinara store, they don't have that ability to suddenly add that cost to their product. So I think people are aware of this, right? And that's why when I go to the grocery store, and I've seen it, or your fruit wala, or your vegetable wala, or your closest Kinara store, there's a lot of people who come with their own bags. So I think even if it's not coming from the business side of it, the consumers are more aware and are making that choice. And I have seen, they say, okay, fine, you want a paper bag, you bring it yourself, or you can buy it next door, pay 5 rupees, 10 rupees for it, and you can come take the bags. But I think now, because there has been like this, because of this legislative ban in plastic, especially, like say in our state, some of them are just not providing packaging at all, because one, they're scared that if they get caught with a plastic bag, they're going to be fined. So they're not providing an option. So you're actually forcing consumers to bring their own packaging, which they can reuse. So I think in a way, it's even if they haven't been able to adapt to that immediately, hopefully in the future, but as of now, I think that onus is falling on the consumers, and people, our consumers are adapting to it better.
Yeah, that's true. So we are just expecting that keener sooner time, but like, they'll be at least adapting the sustainable, even if it will be a cost effective.
Right.
It can be. So yeah, Tanush, your thoughts on this same?
Yeah, so what Priyanka said is like totally true. The main thing for the consumer end is not about the sustainable thing or a plastic. It comes to the cost.
Yeah.
So make it a consumer, or make it a seller who's like giving bags. So what happens is like there are very little players in the sustainable market as of now. But taking to 10 years forward, you may only find sustainable products but not plastic. So the main thing right now we are facing is just a little people who's working on the sustainable segment. So what we may ask is like, why can't all other people start a different kinds of startup in the sustainable space where they can like contribute a lot and make a certain kinds of products which can be produced in a larger scale, and it actually comes with a lesser cost when comparing to plastic. So that is my thought.
Yeah, agreed with this thought. Uh, So earlier you guys explained that what are the current available sustainable products in the sustainable market, especially in the packaging industry. So now regarding to that, my question is that what are the limitations of the present sustainable packaging products available in the market? Like if there are any.
So I think, like I mentioned, I think one of the two largest limitations are one, inaccessibility to raw materials, and actually having technologies in India that can and sometimes even environmental conditions. I think Tanush will be able to speak about this more. I'm not sure, but I feel like with packaging that's made from mushroom, you'll need some kind of environmental conditions that need to be sort of stabilized for it to grow or to even manufacture it. So I think in accessibility to raw materials and technologies, and also lack of awareness also on the consumer side. When we say, oh, we have sustainable packaging, a lot of consumers are like expecting a brown box, minimal, black print on it. Like they have this whole stereotype about what sustainable packaging will look like. And I think we're working so hard to like break those myths, right? Because if you see any of the packaging that we create, they look like traditional packaging, extremely vibrant, full of colors. Like there's no limitation in terms of design. And I think that's something that we have to educate our consumers on, that you don't have to compromise on aesthetics or durability just to make that switch to sustainable packaging. Yeah, so I think those two would be major ones for me.
Okay, Tanush.
Yeah, so what Priyanka said is like totally true. So the main thing is accessibility to raw materials, because sustainable kind of product, so it comes from a certain kinds of waste material and we are just like recycling it or like manufacturing it into different material. So what happens is like the main accessibility of raw materials is the main limitations, and the other limitation is use of chemicals with a certain kinds of products. So what happens is like some kind of products which you have seen. So what happens is like they use a certain kinds of chemicals to make those kind of blends to make a certain kinds of molds. So again, it is not like coming under a sustainable kind of a product. So the other thing which is lacking is the tech, because certain kinds of tech can be used to reduce the combinations of certain kinds of chemicals being used in certain kinds of products. So these are the two main limitations which I have been facing as of now.
Understood. So let's aim to, like face these issues together and like try to solve it out something out of like any of the trouble we can solve it out. So in the meantime, I would like to address the attendees for the session to put the QA their questions in the Q&A box. So I will be able to moderate that to the panel. Right? Okay, moving for the next question. Like while I was designing whole this questionnaire, I came across the following this statement which I'll be addressing, which fueled my curiosity. So if you guys can give a quick thoughts on it. The statement is stating like that whether you are selling one product or several thousand, it's best not to commit totally to packaging sustainability before you have tested the concept. You can do that by sampling packaging options, and which actually drives my curiosity over this, that how it being worked.
Sure. So I think with this, and this is something that we always tell our clients as well, is that you have to start somewhere. No one expects you to be 100% sustainable and perfect right from the start. So we'd rather have 1,000 people taking small steps towards more sustainable, either more sustainable packaging, more sustainable practices, rather than just have that one person who's doing everything perfectly. So I think baby steps, and more people taking those baby steps has a much larger impact.
Okay. Tanush, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so what I've been thinking is just like trying certain kinds of variations in prototype and doing a pilot testing with different kinds of brands. So this can make sure that we are going with a proper way of testing the product, as well as we'll be coming with a feedback where we can work on the next set of products. So this can make us a more kind of innovative as well as a more sustainable towards the future.
Cool. So, if I'll just summarize the whole conversation of this, on this sustainable packaging topic. So, I have few takeaways for from this conversation that are what are the limitations we need to resolve in the sustainable packaging industry. Then, what are the learnings you may say we can take away from this is one, that how and why we should adapt the sustainable products not into the packaging industry but even into the other verticals as well, right? That I have something realized throughout this conversation. Even my curiosity to adapt these sustainable products in the routine usage as well is a bit has improved. Other thing I just want to mention, great thank you to both of you to address such a nice questions and giving us a very good insights for all the conversation. Uh, just a sec. Yeah, we have a question from the audience that saying, as consumers, what we can do promote sustainable packaging. Anyone want to take up this?
So I think as consumers, like I said, because consumers are putting so much pressure on brands to move towards more sustainable practices, brands are making that change. And I think one of the main things as consumers, some sustainable products, they do tend to be more expensive than your traditional products. So I think, initially with a lot of brands, it's like, I think voting with your wallet, right? If you're able to, and if you support something, then taking that step to support a brand that's being more sustainable with their practices is one way. And just I guess spreading awareness and just letting all of us work with companies or work with brands, or any kind of association that we have, that to try to bust those myths around sustainable packaging, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so now I would like to address both of you to just share a few good learnings from your entrepreneur life which you have been through throughout this year. First, I would like to go with the Tanush.
Yeah. So, like going with the entrepreneur journey, it is a bit tough. So you need to convince a lot of your family members before you stepping in, because these are the people who will stand with you when you are down. So yeah, it's a bit tough. It takes a lot of time to sustain. So you can't just earn something within a day or so. So it is like a work of years and experience, and you need to convince a lot. So that's what my kind of thing is.
Okay, thank you for sharing this. Yes, Priyanka.
I think one of the main things with our company was perseverance. I think a lot of the times that we're working towards something and we're working towards a goal, and we tend to work hard, and when things are going great, people tend to slow down. And I think that's when we realize that that's when you really need to work harder, because that's when you need to create more, innovate more, build more to give your consumers something to come back for. So I think perseverance is something that's really stood strong with our company. And I think the two other main things was, one, networking. Like I said before, collaboration over competition has really helped us all through. And yeah, I think that was a big part. Even with the first client that we had, it was actually someone I've met through a networking event back in college. And that, to have that client start off was one of our clients called the Pan Project, and they really trusted us with their packaging early on, which was a huge stepping stone for us. So, I think collaborating with people in the industry, that has really helped us grow and expand in terms of what materials we use, what products we can use, what use cases we can offer, has been huge. So I think perseverance and collaborations.
Yeah, I'll do agree with that, because I also had this experience in my entrepreneur life that like collaboration is always more and much fruitful than the competitive approach. So yeah, thanks for the such a insightful conversation on this sustainable packaging panel. I would like to address a very great thank you to both of you, Tanush and Priyanka. Also to Vivek, who unfortunately got left with the network issue and something. Also, I would like to thank you, Sativa Media and Camila as well, to give us the opportunity to host this session today. Over to you, Camila.
Thank you so much for being part of this session. And so this week we had different sessions on sustainable solutions, and there are some things that are just common to all these areas. One of them is definitely perception, people's perception, how they understand the industry, whether it's fashion, whether it's construction, or whether it's packaging, and their biases, right? What they think it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. Number two is we sometimes mix up a good product with a product that has been there for a long time. So we know that plastic for us is the most convenient thing, because you put there things and it protects from water, it doesn't spill, it's easy, right? But we forget that when plastic came into the picture, it was also quite expensive. So it took a while until that industry not only grew, but was backed by governments all over the world, because they saw the benefits. The issue that the sustainable solutions are facing right now is that the innovation is here, but we need these changes to happen in faster, right? We need the government to get on board faster. These industries are also facing they don't have you were saying, you are trying to come up with labels to say, okay, this is a sustainable packaging, but policies and government are behind, right, in coming up with those things. So they don't know where to put. I'm sure when Tanush, you take out your product to the market and you go to, get your certifications and all, they'll be like, where do we put you? Is this food? Is this, we don't know where to put you. And that also it makes you stumble in the process, because then you have to see how you're going to get around those things that are not here right now. The other thing that is common to all of these industries is the price. And again, this is linked to what I said before, that these other products that are out there that are not sustainable are at a lower price, again, because they've been there for a long time, and the technology is there to mass produce them, so that makes them cheaper. So that's why we need both ends, right? We need the consumers to push brands to get into more sustainable packaging, and at the same time, we also need the government to get on board and see how they can help to mass produce this packaging, and so that it becomes cheaper. Otherwise, competing with the worst plastic ever is going to be very difficult. Even when people want to change, like you said, Priyanka, even if they want to have a better option, let's say when we talk about food, if they want to change from that plastic container to a more sustainable container that allows them to send the food, because that's the other issue. They needed to be cost effective. Otherwise, they're not going to change to that packaging. And then the other thing is definitely awareness and education in these spaces. We need to educate the customers, and for them to understand the real benefits. We now are living in a society that has an immediate reward for everything. And when you switch to sustainability in any area in your life, fashion or packaging, or even, cleaning products and all of that, you are looking at an effect that is going to be seen in the future, right? Right now, my immediate reward is this is cheaper, I'll save money, right? And I see that. But the other reward is long-term. And it's long-term not only for the environment, but it's also long-term for our health. Because all of these options, the plastic and other these fabrics that are also, let's say, to be honest, that they are also plastic, that also has an effect on our health, not only on the environment. So we do get those benefits, but those benefits are long-term. So it's not something that I get here in my hands and I can see, but it's an investment for the long term. So that is also a change in the way that we think and how we approach the way we live. So it takes a lot of education and awareness. And just before we started, we were talking about the men's packaging event that they have next week. So in this space, brands and startups are not only using their time to create products, they also have to invest in awareness, in education, in meetups, in this, right, online sessions, so that they have different spaces where they can teach and help people understand what they are doing, what the product is, why is it different, why should I consider paying a bit more instead of just going for the regular stuff. So these are things that I found that are similar to all these industries that are coming up with solutions. And also is definitely a space where innovation is the number one thing. Because usually when we think about innovation, sometimes it comes up, like only technology or, SaaS and fintech and all those fancy terms. But it doesn't matter which industry you're in. If you are into sustainability, innovation is like one of the major things that you see, because you're trying to reclaim, the things that were already there, bring them back, right? Before we had all this plastic and all these different type of fibers and concrete and all of that, we had people that were living a very, very different lives. So now it's the combination of those traditional ways of living with technology, and how can we come up with better solutions. So definitely it's a space where you find innovation. That's amazing. What people in this sustainable space, sustainability related solutions are coming up with is amazing. It doesn't matter if it's technology or any other industry. Their ideas are just great. So thank you so much again for being part of this session, and hopefully we'll do this again in the future.
Thank you so much for having us. It was great speaking to all of you and learning so much about, the industry and what else is going on. Tanush, I'd love to get in touch with you and see how we could work together in the future as well.
Sure. Thank you for having me, and thank you for having each and every panelist over here. So I've been learning a certain kinds of segments which I have been new into this industry. So thank you.